Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Code. One topic, no script. And today we are talking about conventions. Are they really about comics? And Jamie, without further ado, why don't you go ahead and take that away?
Oh, I am so happy I'm taking this one off. Now, with my answer, I have to say now, no.
Okay.
The reasoning for that is the community in comics and pulp culture kind of intertwined with one another.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to the MCU, thanks to DCEU, thanks to movies in general, TV shows. There's a plethora of them out there. We've had this conversation of, is the comic market too saturated before?
Mm-hmm.
Previous Breaking the Code. But you look at the older days, and I say that kindly.
Like
where
pre-2000s?
Even before that.
Okay.
You go to a comic book convention, and that's what it was. It was a comic book convention. There was no real big stars. There was writers. There was artists.
Mm-hmm.
That was the big reason, because they were the ones that created what you have in hand.
Right.
Now, since we've kind of hit that new stigma of what comics really are about, and all these different mediums in
Mm-hmm.
that world, you look at, let's say, a C2E2 from Chicago. Let's look at, the
Wizard World.
You look at Ace comic event, or their con.
Mm-hmm.
You see that dwindle down. Like, I remember going to, was it C2E2 right before COVID hit? The
Mm-hmm.
last one they had. Literally the next week, COVID, everything shut down.
Yeah.
We went there, and there was probably maybe 4 major stands full of comics, where you go there year before, and it kind of like gradually like went down over those years.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. So like you look at something like 2017 for me to 2019, it just dramatically dropped. You have more people now that are going to see, who is acting in this role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love that idea. I've met Charlie Cox. I've met Dave Bautista. I've got those chances to interact with people. I have a lot of signatures from them. I met Crowley from Supernatural, even though it's not comic book related. I still did.
Right on.
But you look at this new medium of what comics and the comic culture has become, and people are there for the entertainment purpose. They're not there as collectors. I still see people walk in with, their little wheelie dollies,
suitcase full of
wheel dollies with long boxes on them. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm the type of person that every time I go to a convention, I either bring a long box or 2,
mm-hmm.
because I'm always looking for the deals and what I can grab. It's kind of sad to me that that's what this whole thing has turned into, is more of, hey, I want to go meet Chris Evans, more than I want to go figure out what Captain America was previously.
Right.
I want to meet, the next star. I want to meet the Oscar Isaac, or meet the plethora of people that have, cascaded themselves into these roles.
Yep.
Right.
And, it's a world of now pop Funkos, meeting these people that, catapulted these characters into a new atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken away, to me, that hunt. Every time we go out, we're always hunting. I always make the joke, because I live in Wisconsin, that people are like, well, I'm going hunting this weekend. Well, I go hunting once a year, but it's for a different reason. Like you might be getting deer, I'm getting boards and bags. Like, come on. But yeah, to me, it's a big no now. Like, if you hit little convention, something small,
more personal conventions,
it gives you that feel of what collecting was about. It gives you the feel of what a convention used to be. And I'm one of those people that I'll walk through Artist Alley. I'll walk through, where the writer block is. I want to meet these people. These people cultivated my life into a certain way I am now. If it wasn't for them, this wouldn't be where it is right now with the show. I wouldn't have this aspiration to do it, review their stuff, do Breaking the Codes, do this kind of conversation topic. But it all comes down to, who's going to be the star at the end of the day that's showing up that everyone wants to meet.
Right.
You know?
Okay. Tone, how do you feel about it? Do you think conventions are really about comic books right now, or do you feel like Jamie does and they're more multimedia?
I definitely feel just like Jamie does.
Okay.
And so I'm going to piggyback now off of some of the sentiment and things that Jamie laid out there. Let's start with Writers Alley right now.
Mhm.
When you look at the body of people that are going to a Comic-Con nowadays, so many of the people that may be in the building facility, and that is thousands in the current environment,
Mhm.
would have no idea who's actually sitting on Writers or Artists Alley, right? Once upon a time, that wasn't the case. If you go back to the 80s, these comic convention, Comic-Con was small. Even in the early 90s, they were a little bit larger with the explosion of comics, but still much smaller.
Yeah.
But now I didn't have the privilege of going a lot back then, or going at all, to be blunt. And what we did call conventions were really just guys getting together and selling to other guys in a cafeteria.
Everybody brought a
auditorium.
long box and
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. But they're so large now. They're so huge. They're so pop culture oriented. And different cons have different personalities now. If you were to go to Baltimore, I think Baltimore Comic-Con, for example, is a very balanced Comic-Con. You have writer events. You get to meet actors that may be in pop culture, but not necessarily in comics. Sometimes, so you may have some Star Trek actors there that you can meet and greet. You may have some comic writers there. As far as meeting and signing, you may have, you're going to have artists, Artist Alley over here. You're going to have over here cosplay. You have your breakout rooms, of course, where they're going to do. You can go sit through this breakout where they're going to talk about this new property, so on and so forth. It's very balanced. New York seems to be a lot more focused on the artists and the writers. San Diego seems to be focused on the actors, the movies,
the media,
right?
Yeah.
They have Hall H, which is strictly just for them.
Yep. And so, but now there's so many people that are involved that enjoy comicdom, but don't necessarily enjoy comics.
Yeah,
And
they're all about checking things out, but they don't want to read the books that the characters that they love to watch are based off of.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you say now you go to a Comic-Con, there's always a huge, gigantic merchandising aspect to it now, where entire floors are dedicated just to vendors to sell you crap, whatever that crap may be. And it's so you've got comic vendors there selling you comic books, of course, but you've got people selling you swords and selling you costumes for cosplay and X and this and that and pops. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone's still there hawking Beanie Babies, right? And so now I don't think now the question is it about comics? No, I don't believe it is. It may be about comic related things and then pop culture things. But comics, no. Comic books, no. Is that a bad thing? Is a different discussion.
Right.
I don't necessarily think that's bad. But as a comic purist, it's frustrating for me to walk in a building wanting to see writer X, Y, and Z and artist X, Y, and Z. And what I've got to wade through are 3,000 people, right? Just to try and get to see those guys. And the last thing I'll add there is the business aspect of this. I went to Baltimore Comic-Con 3 years ago and I got in early. I paid for the pass to get in early. And I got to walk right up to Mark Waid, right?
Nice.
And there was no line. And we sat there and we talked for 5 minutes. He was such a gentleman. He was so cool. He was so relaxed. And I had a couple of key issues that he had written. I wanted him to sign, and he signed them. And while I'm sitting there, guy comes up behind me. He's got his roller. He's got two long boxes. He's got two short boxes. And he starts laying out. And this is when Archie had just come out. So it might have been 4 years ago. And he starts laying out. And while I'm talking to Mark Waid, he lays out about 20 Archie number ones.
God almighty.
Right. And
he's not keeping those.
Right? And he's just there. He's there. He's just, this is not about, this is just for the money. Right. And he's got about 20 that he wants Mark Waid to sign. Mark Waid is one of the comic artists who doesn't charge for signatures at all. And Mark Waid just takes it in stride. Like, I'm going to sign every one of them. But it highlights to me, this is a mechanism for business, right? Not just fandom to meet the comic creators. So,
okay, fair points from both of you right there. I'm going to chime in on this conversation, and I'm going to say personally, comic conventions are still about comic books for me, but I am forced to agree with both of you when the question is asked overall, are conventions really about comics? The answer is a big no. And I think both of you can agree with me when I say this. When I look at a convention that I'm going to, or I look and hear about a new convention, the first thing I do is look and see what writers are going to be there and what artists are going to be there. It's the first thing I do. I do not look at the celebrity list. I do not look at the cosplay list. I do not look at the vendors. I look at who the writers and artists are going to be. Okay, do I have anything that these guys did? Is there a reason for me to go to this convention? No? Okay, moving on. But the first convention I ever went to was an anime and comic convention in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I went with my invisible friend, Nick. And,
Hi, Nick.
And and we had such a good time. There was minor cosplay, less anime, and vendor upon vendor of comic books. Like, that's all the convention was. And it was one of the greatest times I had ever had at a convention. And it was just a convention in a hotel lobby. That's what the old conventions used to be. Just a bunch of people getting together and things like that. Now, when I went to Wizard World Chicago, that was a culture shock because that was a multimedia event. There were comic books there, absolutely, and Writers Alley and Artist Alley were available for you to go through too. But the entertainment aspect at Wizard World Chicago was enormous. And going with what you were saying about meeting Mark Waid and that gentleman coming up with two short boxes and slamming all those Archies in front of him, same thing happened to me when I tried to get an autograph from Greg Capullo. All I had was Batman #1, and I think it was Spawn 13, whichever was the first cover art with Greg Capullo. I had that. That's all I wanted to get signed by the man. And I walk up to the table is empty, but there's a bunch of guys standing there, and I'm like, well, is Greg around? Oh, he stepped away for a minute. He'll be back. I said, oh, okay, where's the line start? And this one guy pointed at me and he's like, dude, it's way back there. And I was like, are you serious? And all of the people in line had long boxes of stuff for this guy to sign. All I wanted was $2. $2. That was it. That's all I cared about, and wanted to shake the man's hand and be like, dude, your stuff in Spawn was amazing. X-Force was amazing. Batman is wonderful. Keep up the great work. Have a good day. I walked out of the line. I was like, I'm not going to stick around and wait 10 hours for 50 guys to have 2 long boxes apiece signed by Greg Capullo. Absolutely not.
Yep.
But yeah, so there's not really much more I can say on that. I mean, beyond the fact that personally, conventions will always be about comic books for me. But in the grand scheme of things, I agree with both of you in the aspect of that. Are conventions about comic books now? The answer is no.
Yeah, and the one key point I wanted to make, let's just even take this for example. Let's strip away Artist Alley and Writer Alley. Like, for example, you walk into a convention. Now, I'm opposite of you, Tim. I will, when there's a convention going on, I look at vendors first. And the reason I say that is I know most of the vendors from the Chicago area that are going to be there when I was living there. Wisconsin, not so much, but I'm learning. It's a learning curve for me. So I always knew which ones were going to be there. And it got so less and less. It was kind of breaking to me. It's like, I came here for a reason. I came here for that love. I came here for that, me walking up to, going through 30 long boxes.
The bartering and
the bartering, the hunting, the experience, every time, no matter if I was sober or not. That's not the point. But
to hear that story, ladies and gentlemen, that is on a Codex After Dark. Go find that.
Yes. We do not condone drinking and driving or any of that here at the Codex station, but
we are hydro homies, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. Reddit. But no, like going there and, being able to go to like 17 different vendors and just digging through and trying to like just barter with them, trying to get the best deal, buying what I call bricks, which are full series runs, and trying to, find something new, find something never experienced before. We lost that. And that's heartbreaking for people that started out with that to get to this point. You got to go underground a little bit to find it now. Yeah. And even let's bring back, the Artist Alley and Writers Alley thing. The last time when I went for C2, which I still love, I will go every year I possibly can if I can. Obviously, C2 shut down, or not C2, but COVID shut down a lot of that for a lot of people. But I remember the year when COVID broke out, when we were there for that week before, I went up to James Tinian's table, right? And it was a guy in front of me and me. He had a podcast interview he did for 10 minutes, came back to his table. He signed my Batman 86, the first issue he was on. I was in and out there. I said, "Thank you, sir. Like, I read your tweet about trying to think of Batman storylines while you were sitting on the subway. Like that's amazing how that thought process works for you. How do you go into that kind of detail?" And he sat there and talked to me about it, and then I left, saw the other guy, come up. We walked past him again because we were trying to get to Tony Daniel because he was on the book as well. And he wasn't over there. So we walked past Tinian again, and he's just sitting on his phone. And this is when Something Killing Children first 4 issues came out.
Wow.
When no one really knew about what it was. And he's just sitting there playing on his phone. He's got his little assistant sitting next to him. No one went up to his table. I was about to go up and be like, "Can you sign a second time? Like, does it
sign over here now?"
And I don't sell those kind of things. I keep it because you impacted my life.
Yeah.
I want your signature. I want you on this book.
With the exception of a handful, every book I've ever gotten signed, I still have.
You're right. And then I go to meet Tony Daniel, and there's 3 people. It's like, the guy's a legend. How is there 3? He's a writer and artist.
Yeah.
How are people not gravitating over here? We walk past the table with like Tom King and Donnie Cates and like the heavy hitters, man. And it was just, to me, it was sad. It was kind of sickening because most of these people didn't even, like, they'll walk past them and, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. But then you go to the multimedia stars
and there's lines going to the front of the door.
Yeah. To see, and it's not a bad thing to go see those people like Rey Mysterio Jr. or Jason David Frank, or
if you're going there to see it, awesome. I applaud you for that. You're still keeping that aspect alive no matter what you're doing. And I'm not negating that to the least bit. But when you're looking at it from a perspective like us, like I want to piggyback off what Tone says, the comic purists, it's heartbreaking.
I really sit back and I wonder, the trade-off that we have. When I met Charles Soule a couple of weeks ago, I was expecting there to be a line. I expected a lot of people trying to get there. I was going to get there late, not too long before they left. And I walked up to an empty table, just himself.
Wow.
And I said, I was expecting a line. He said, yeah, there was a line earlier. But we got done with it pretty quick. And And I was so excited to meet him. I also get signatures, not because I expect the value of a book to go up, just I want that artist and that writer's signature on the book, since they gave me something to my life. They introduced something in my life that I value and I treasure. And that's my way of showing it back and with my appreciation.
See, and those real quick, those signatures, when you look at those books, they spark memory and they spark conversation. And when your friends are digging through your boxes and you're like, why do you have Galapion's signature on this Batman issue? Let me tell you about that.
Exactly. But we know that through the 90s, the comic industry struggled financially in a great way. We know about the great comic store collapse across the country, right?
Yep.
And there's so much money now. If you look at the companies that own Marvel and DC, there's so much money now globally within the multimedia aspect of these companies that I wonder if in the backdrop is what is supporting the comic industry. I don't know that. I just wonder if that's the case. And it allows them to continue to lay the groundwork for the creative comic properties to continue being published. And so when I see it at a Comic-Con, I see the growth. I see the people who aren't interested in the comic books themselves. Take the comic shirt. I see somebody on the street. I see a Superman shirt, a Batman shirt, a Marvel comic shirt, an Avenger shirt. And I say, hey, I'm a comic fan, been collecting my whole life. What's your favorite book? I see your shirt, or I see your hat, or I see your coat. And they go, oh yeah, I don't really read comics, but I've seen every movie.
Yeah.
And so I would say in the past 2 years, I've maybe met one person that reads comics that way, but the average fan out there by capita across the population is not a comic book fan.
No.
And so, but does their money help the comic book industry stay alive?
Yes.
And so when I walk into the convention, I see the crowds and I don't like it. And I see 1,000 vendors selling things that aren't comics, and it's way too congested to get down on your knees and start digging through a box without people stepping over you. And half the panels are cosplay panels. And I say, okay, I know where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to Writers and Artists Alley, right? I'm going to try and get in early and get out before the the big lines get long for the comic store owners that are going to try and farm these signatures for everything they can get out of them. And I get out of Dodge, right?
Well, gentlemen, I think that is a perfect place to put a pin in this conversation. I know there's a lot more to say about it, and maybe we'll come back for round 2. Guys, before we get out of here, don't forget that topics of conversation here on All Breaking the Codes are subjective. These are our opinions only. If you feel differently about it, by all means, let us know in the comments section below how you feel about conventions and if they still are really about comic books or not. You heard what Tone, Jamie, and I had to say, and we want to know what you have to say. Now, with that being said, Jamie, do you have anything you want to say to our wonderful audience that is watching right now?
Yeah, guys. Yeah, we've got a good thing going, and we have a great community right now. We got a great foundation going. And it takes you guys to do that for us. So guys, join this fam, join the clan, as Tone said earlier or in a previous episode. And always be kind to one another. You guys never know what anybody is going through out there. So even a smile can change someone's perspective of their life. So always be kind. And guys, follow, like, subscribe, whatever you could possibly do. We're trying to grow. We're trying to get out to everybody. And I mean everybody, so they can join our community. And guys, as always, I will see you in the next one.
Right on. And Tone, you got anything you want to say to people watching right now?
Just thank you for your time. Thank you for investing that time and energy into us. And we hope we can reciprocate that and give it back to you. Please tune in. We want to keep developing great content for you. This is Tone Super, the Sci-Fi Swordsman and Sage Gamer. Remember, at the Codex Station, we love comics and we love heroes, and you are a hero.
That's right. And ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to find us on all the socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok and Discord. All you got to do is type in the Codex Station, and that is where you will find us. We are also on all podcast streaming platforms. And I have a throat problem going on. We're on all podcast streaming platforms. All you got to do is type in the Codex Station, and you can listen to our wonderful ASMR voices and not look at our beautiful faces and fall asleep gently and sleep peacefully.
Obviously, after the episode is over, not during, because if that's the case, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. Like Tone says, guys, we love you all. Jamie says a smile changes someone's day. And I say, my name is Tim. This wonderful guy on either side of me is Tone Super, the Sci-Fi Swordsman. And down below is Jamie. This is Breaking the Code. We are the Codex Station, and we will see you next time.
Peace.